Now, when you are hitting your one-handed backhand, make sure that you're dropping that right shoulder as you approach the ball. Many times I see players coming up to the ball and they're very upright, and this way they can rotate across, but it makes it very difficult to drive up and forward and get their hip involved. So as I'm preparing the ball for the ball, I get my arm back and I'm dropping this right shoulder down, so the right shoulder is slightly below my left shoulder.
Now let's have a look at Roger Federer and how he gets into that power position in his backhand. Notice as he gets his racket back and he's fully prepared, his right shoulder is way below that left shoulder. So if we were to draw that line between the shoulders, you can see that the right is way below the left. Notice how his chin is almost resting on top of the shoulder. And this is a great position for you to get into for two reasons. One, it's great for weight transfer, which we'll explore later in the video. And two, it also encourages that rotation on a slightly tilted axis. So what I mean by that is when we start the move, the left shoulder is above the right. And then when he finishes the move, the right shoulder is above the left. So we're rotating on a slightly angled axis. What this means is we're now able to drop the racket and accelerate the racket fully, involving the hip in the process. So from here the racket drops, the hip gets involved, and now we're able to go from low to high. So again, this now encourages topspin, but also it encourages a longer contact point, so a bigger hitting zone. If you were just rotating on a horizontal path, so if your shoulders were like this and you were rotating across, you'd end up maybe applying side spin to the ball. You couldn't have a contact point that's as long as if you were doing it from low to high, and you wouldn't have as much control or power on the ball. So even from this angle, from the back, we can see Roger drop that right shoulder. His left shoulder's above the right, and you can see how high his racket head is now above his wrist as well. So a nice high take back here for Roger, and then from here he's able to drop the racket, involve his hip, and then let it go and finish nice and high here over his shoulder.
And now I'm going to use my legs and drive up from the hip, and this way now my right shoulder is going to open up and go across my body, and that's where my finish will be.
Here's a great angle to see Stan Wawrinka's high finish on the backhand. He gets into a great preparation phase where his right shoulder's dropped before the ball, he lets go and extends up into contact. Now notice his right shoulder is now above the left shoulder, and it's a great angle there at the end. Now we talked a little bit about the weight transfer and how the shoulder drop encourages you to get your body weight into the shot. Now obviously you're going to lean forward a lot more by dropping that shoulder, but what you don't want to do is get there too early. So the way the best players do it is by stepping forward with their heel. Now from here they go onto their toe, and then here where they can transfer their body weight onto that front leg. So their body weight starts on the back foot, they step forward with the right foot on the heel, and then they can transfer by stepping onto the toe and lifting the heel of the back foot. So it's that heel to toe action which encourages that weight transfer. So that right shoulder being down, you're now not only transferring your body weight, but you also are able to involve your hip a lot more. Let's see this in side view with Grigor Dimitrov's backhand. So we're looking for that shoulder dropping, so his right shoulder is below the left shoulder, exactly as we've seen with Stan Wawrinka and Roger Federer. His heel is pointing forward, so he's stepping forward onto that right heel, and then he's transferring his body weight and finishing on that front foot. So as he's stepping forward, notice, and this is something that a lot of the players get wrong, his body weight, his center of gravity is actually on his back foot in this position. So it's only as he's starting to hit the shot and then go forward through contact and then up, he's now finishing in front of that line. So a lot of players I see, when they are stepping forward, they're already committed, they're already on the front foot, and then they're not able to go through contact quite as much. And obviously with that right shoulder leaning into it, be careful not to lean over, so not to have your body weight over this foot. You want to have your body weight still in the middle, so that when you are going to go forward onto the front foot, you can then go in front of that center of gravity that you had before. Now the way it's done here is as Dimitrov is stepping forward onto the heel, Notice what happens with the back knee, and this is very important. So the back knee at the moment is facing there. Now notice what will happen when he starts to hit the ball. Can you see where the knee is facing? It's now facing that way. So it's gone from that way to that way. And the way it's done is that back heel is rotating around. So he's on the heel on the front foot, but the back foot now, as he goes onto the toe with the front foot, he's now lifting his back foot, so his back heel is being lifted, and it's now rotating, so it's starting to rotate outwards. So notice how it rotates outwards, and his knee is going forward. So let's see that again. Let's see that. So his heel rotates, and his knee goes forward. And this, of course, now encourages that hip to go forward as well. So if you notice where the hip started, the hip starts here, and now it finishes here. So he goes with the hip into the shot, and by having that shoulder down to start with, and now the driving of the hip forward, and the left shoulder is now going down through contact. So it's right shoulder down, then left shoulder down, hip through contact, and then a high finish at the end.
So drop the shoulder, drop the legs, go down, drive up with the hip.
Now, before we get any deeper into this lesson, if you're serious about improving all aspects of your game, then make sure that you have subscribed to the channel.
Now press the notification bell so you don't miss out on any future lessons from us.
Now this concept works in all different game situations. Now here we see Stefanos Tsitsipas chasing a wide backhand. He's still in exactly the same position. His right shoulder's below his left hand is supporting the racket, making the racket head being above his wrist, and he's stepping forward with that heel. Now because he's on a stretch, he's going to need to step out and balance himself out, and also be able to recover back into position. So that's why that back foot now rotates out, and then he's able to get back. Now we have to be really careful when we are running for a wide ball, and even if we're just stepping forward, that the toe of that front, of that leading foot that we're stepping out with, is not parallel to the baseline. Now notice how when Tsitsipas steps into the court, when he actually makes contact to the ground, his foot is almost at like a 45-degree angle there, where he's now able to rotate around that. So when he is stepping forward, now he's able to rotate and then step out. Whereas if that foot was facing parallel to the baseline, then it would be impossible for him to rotate, and it could actually cause injury if you were to attempt it. The same thing applies when you're moving back. So here Dimitrov is getting back behind the baseline, so he's got a deep ball that he has to recover for. Notice his right shoulder is of course below his left shoulder. But here, what's interesting is he knows and he accepts that he's not going to be able to put his body weight forward, but he still needs to rotate his body around that front foot. So notice the way we step, even when moving back, is we make sure that we don't lock ourselves out, but he's stepping with that foot still facing at a 45-degree angle. He's not locking himself out, so that when he does hit, his body in his hip, and then be able to step out after the shot. Here Dominic Thiem using the outside leg on that backhand, and still exactly the same shoulder position. So his shoulders are right shoulder below the left, his chin is even resting on that right shoulder, so he's fully turned, even though he's in that open stance position, and he's able to hit from there. Here Tsitsipas, even on a deeper, higher ball, exactly the same position. And then from there he can accelerate and do exactly the same move as he was on the other balls.
Thank you so much for watching the video. We hope you've enjoyed it and learned something new. Now if you have, make sure you smash that like button.
Make sure you share the video with anyone that you think will benefit from learning from this, and also leave a comment under the video and let us know what you struggle with most in your game.
Don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well and turn on the notification bell. Signing off, Simon and Alex. See you soon, guys.